Hey y'all, good evening. So I kind of blew out my hand today inking, so it's going to be a pretty laid back power hour this evening. I do have some things planned, but nothing too strenuous. So one of the first things I wanted to do was the same thing we do every week, Pinky, and we're just going to roll through our usual gamut of plugs and recommendations and whatnots. So, as always, this is brought to you guys thanks to my wonderful Artnerds over on Patreon. And I'm getting ready to teach another round of making comics with Nashville Community Ed and intermediate comics with Nashville Community Ed. And those are two 6 week long comic classes where the goal is to make a comic or a mini comic or a zine at the end of the 6 weeks and have a zine exchange. So making comics is just kind of an introduction to the comic making process, and intermediate comics is where we're really going to start to branch out. I'm going to bring in my large format printer. I'm going to bring in my scanner. We're going to talk about layout. We're going to talk about lettering. Basically all the stuff I can't really cover in making comics because there's just not enough time. We're going to cover in intermediate comics. So if you live in the Nashville area, that could be great for you. If you don't live in the Nashville area, I share the materials that I create, not just for my making comics classes, but for my Copic marker classes and any of the classes that I teach through Plaza over here with my patrons on Patreon. So that is a great way to not only support what I'm doing here, but also to get access to those sort of class materials. I've also been trying to make it a point to update the blog a little bit more often. I kind of fall behind on it when I'm doing class material stuff or when I'm creating things for classes. I don't usually feel too bad about it though, because I share all that with my patrons. But there's been a few more updates over here, including a really nice one about making your own zines. So if you're still kind of interested, not entirely sure if it's for you, you should check out God Save the Zine over at natasup.blogspot.com. And then, of course, we have my comic, and it is running a guest comic by Feather right now. So if you guys want to check out more of Feather's own comic, you can check out Tease Day on Webtoon. I'll drop a link. And before that, I had a super cute guest comic by Kabocha, who is modding the chat this evening along with Joseph. Thank you so much. And you guys should definitely check out Kabocha's awesome website. Kabocha does really awesome comics and also creates amazing digital assets like tone brushes. You've probably seen her brushes around. She's got a really nice rose brush set up that you guys can check out, and her brushes are free. And you guys can check out her really beautiful webcomic, making excellent use of her tones, linked at linkedcomic.com. Grab links for that as well. Ooh. Ooh, okay. For some reason, YouTube won't let me. Wow. Yeah, it won't let me link my own. It won't let me drop a link. I am so sorry. Maybe this one will work. It's ridiculous though. Like, there we go. It doesn't like linking linked. Too many links in one sentence. So that kind of takes care of that. So a while back, people asked me why I don't do blogs and vlogs anymore. And a big part of that is because a lot of that talking, a lot of that kind of working things out mentally, I do through the streams. So I haven't really been doing a lot of streams lately, partially just because I've been really exhausted and having a lot of problems with migraines. But also I've just been really struggling with my self-confidence lately, and it's really hard to kind of push through that and then turn around and do something like a stream that requires high energy and excitement, and like it requires a lot of projection, and it just gets hard to do that week after week. So last week, Joseph and I actually just went on a date instead of streaming because it got to be like 7:30 and I was like, I'm angry, I don't want to do this. So we went on a date instead. I do want to get back into the habit of doing it because it was something that I did enjoy and I do miss it. And no, I wasn't, no. I wasn't angry related to the stream. I was just like having kind of a bad day and I didn't want to bring that energy into the stream. And lately I've just been really kind of depressed and I didn't really want to bring that energy into the stream either, but I also felt like I owed you guys some kind of explanation. Like I don't want to just bail. Being a flake isn't my ideal situation. So I'm just gonna like kind of flip through my sketchbook, give you guys something to look at and just kind of talk about it. I don't want to like go into it too much because it's not like it's something that like anybody has done. It's not like this one catastrophic event happened to me. It's like not just one thing. It's just like 2019 has sucked. I think we could all, I could use it for a rant video, but I have been trying to kind of move away from being that person because it never did me any good anyway. And I didn't want it to turn into like a drama channel. And I also have gotten, like, even when I vent like a little bit on Twitter, I get people emailing me who are like, that's the reason your career has never progressed, is because all you do is complain. So I don't want to like feed that either. Oh, thank you, Catherine. I've been trying, because this year, I know this year has been awful for like other people too, and not just me. And then like the news this week has just been a thing. And like I was debating maybe doing like a fundraiser tonight to help raise funds to help with what's going on in like Amazonia right now. But I'm also concerned about, I need to vet like a charity that we would be sending it to. Like I would need to do a lot more prep work for that than I was able to do. I feel like it kind of got sprung on me this week, obviously. Like disasters call you when they're gonna happen. But if you can, if you have some spare money, some money that you can spare towards the firefighting efforts going on in Brazil, that would be amazing. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a herpetologist and I wanted to go live in the rainforest and study poison dart tree frogs. So it's just really upsetting, obviously, to see that all that habitat has been lost and we may be losing all these animals and all these plants and all these people's homes. This sketchbook started, I don't know, I usually date them. I don't even know. I don't know. Time has been moving so weird for me, like the past few months. I definitely started this after I got back from Louisiana. I want to say early August, maybe. I mean, with the kind of work I want to create, do you remember the term that the guy Lauderdale, Kenny Lauderdale, the guy who does those old anime reviews? It's like relaxing and healing and refreshing anime. Anyway, can you drop a link to his channel, since I really like what he does? He reviews older anime, but it's not like in a let's tear this to shreds and make fun of it way, but like in a this is awesome and it may not be what used to be, and this may not be available, and we're trying to raise awareness kind of stuff. So like I've been enjoying it because I've discovered a lot of stuff I missed out on. Anyway, that's the kind of work I try to make, is stuff that's generally just kind of like relaxing and refreshing, which are not necessarily video. I mean, I used to try to make stuff that was like, would inspire, like that was my intention, was to try and inspire people or to make them feel like art was more accessible. And I think that's a great goal, and I would like to return to that goal at some point. but it's hard to do. Oh, I don't know if I want to show this, but I will. Not because there's anything wrong with it, but because it's a sketch for something that might happen. Anyway, it's just like when the news is going to hell and you've just had like a really awful year, it's really hard to concentrate on like making things that are refreshing for other people. So mostly what I've just been doing is I've either been working on the bonus chapter for Kara, which I'll show you guys, doodling and sketching, which I'm showing you guys now, or I've been doing just like reading manga in the tub. Oh man, my lights are like blowing it out. No, I haven't. I've been really off. I haven't been doing figure studies. I haven't been doing any of the stuff I'm supposed to be doing. I set it to 4,400, isn't that? That's better. Nope, no it's not. Oh well. That's a shame, because that's like highlighters. It's mod liners. I was messing around with those the other day because they have brush mod liners now. And there's a review of it up there. Hey Barrett, hi Andy. Well, sometimes when you are financially reliant on putting on a good song and dance and a happy face, then you don't really get a choice about whether or not you can turn it on and off. And I say that because I don't know if I talked to you guys about this. Like, I've recorded vlogs on this topic numerous times and then deleted them. I ate. I'd like ate just before the stream. Eating is not gonna like, I've eaten. I'm good. I'm good. I even have a bottle of water next to me. But like, I was about to go into it. Like, I've recorded a vlog like this like 3 or 4 times, and I've deleted it every time because it was like, it starts getting personal, and I'm always like, oh, I don't know anymore. But I've had like 3 cats die this year, for example. And it's Remy in March, Haffy in July. I didn't even get to be in town for that. I was out of town teaching art. And then Raccoon died, what, 2 weeks ago?
No, I think it's 3 weeks.
3 weeks ago. And like literally that week, no, it was 2 weeks ago because it was at the start of August. Because that Saturday I had to do the NCE open house, and then I had to go from the open house over to Plaza to teach a comic class. And that was hard. Like, it's hard to, for me, I have a hard time compartmentalizing. Okay, so that's, no, I actually have more sketches. Exposure. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, geez, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you meant like go eat, because it's like a real thing on Twitter to tell people who are dealing with depression, like, are you eating? Are you drinking enough water? And it's like, I mean, those are important things, don't get me wrong. And if you don't do those things, then it's gonna make your depression way worse. But it's like, you can be doing those things and still having a tough time. But anyway, I'm entering con prep mode now. So, because I have a show that I will announce soon, but I'm not ready to announce it quite yet, coming up. And that's kind of why I've been like grinding, trying to finish Kara, is I really wanted to have con prep mode. I really wanted to have Kara finished for SPX, but that didn't happen. And it didn't happen because like I was too depressed to work or anything. It just didn't happen because it takes as long as it takes, and it's just taking a while. Today I was like, I did a lot of drawing though, a lot of sketching. Because everything you see past con prep stuff is just stuff I doodled today. Oh, okay, I can do that. So Kino Kitsune and I are actually going to be at SVX, and we have a table. We've known that for a little while, and we held off on announcing it just because, for a few reasons. World of space cows. That would be so full of methane. So many farts. So I've been working on just kind of like brainstorming banner ideas, things like that, just because we were talking about it today. So that's some of the sketches I've been working on lately, and I will switch over to monitor mode. And then these are some of the ones I've been working on digitally every now and then, or rather not even every now and then. So a lot of those really rough sketches that you guys see in my sketchbook, I'll scan them, or I'll even take a photo of them with my smartphone and I'll finish them out digitally. And it's just a little bit easier for me these days to work like this because I can resize things without having to redraw it a million times. So these are all sketches that are probably going to end up printed on watercolor paper and watercolored at some point. And then I've also been working on cast a character watercolor illustration. So I've been busy. Like, I haven't been posting much art and I haven't been up to streaming, but I've been working. Oh, it's not doing it any justice, unfortunately. That's a shame. And then this is one I finished a couple of days ago. So generally what my routine has been like do my comic work during the day and then do like some watercolor at night. I mentioned having a bonus chapter that I've been working on, and I've been recording tutorials for these. I guess really just more like demonstrations or maybe walkthroughs, since this is all stuff I've covered pretty in depth in the past. I don't think I'm doing anything different really. So those are the thumbnails for it. And the roughs. It's so full of wax that it's yeah, shiny. And let me know if my audio is bad or if the desktop audio is too loud. Huh? Yeah. And from the graphite itself, graphite's a little bit. I don't know if it's metallic. I don't think it's metallic, but it is shiny. Aw, thank you. The cast of characters ones were all done on arches, and then I pulled some of the Blick Premiere off the block for the two plant-based ones, and I'm really kind of disappointed with how it handled. Like, I use it for my tests, and I've used it for a few standalone illustrations, and I've been like, oh, this is great. And like, I don't know, when I was painting the bromeliads and the elephant ears, I was like, oh, this kind of handles like wet toilet paper. So I don't know if it's like me, maybe I like nicked the paper surface when I was penciling it or what. And then just some of the character designs. I try. Sometimes I'm better than others. Other times, I mean. Oh yeah, and then the script. Which in most of my, like, if I do tutorials and stuff, I don't normally, it's giving me the bad video warning. I don't normally show this, even though I do a lot of work, like, you know, drawing work at this stage too. And then, what I've been working on today, the past couple days really, this is what I actually need to do tonight after the stream is over, which is why I'm not going to do any drawing this stream, because I have to kind of save my hand. Is I've been doing inks and pencils, so there's the cover, and then I recorded this one today, and it about wrecked my hand because it's like 9 panels of inking, and then I'm trying to work around my camera. So I have like 12 pages of blue lines to do, so it's a pretty significant little chunk. I'm a little bit concerned because what I'd really hoped to do was because my classes start again on the 5th, and then I have a figure drawing class I'm teaching on the 9th, and then I have my intermediate class starts on the 10th. Yeah, the 10th, and then SPX is that weekend. So I was really hoping I could finish these before I had to like get my brain back into class mode again, because I've noticed that when I'm teaching, I get hardly any comic work done, and I don't think that's gonna happen because I got to do SPX prep, and I don't have anything like new prepped. That's gonna be a spread, and I'm leaving them as like these kind of weird blobby figures, and I was gonna paint them like neutral tint and black. So I have a lot of work to do on this bonus chapter, unfortunately. Like, it's not as far along as I would have liked. I'm just moving slow. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I just seem to get slower and slower and slower and slower. Yeah, I'm really happy with the line art, and of course Pancake is not impressed, but he is wearing the banana costume that I have for Bowie. It does kind of make him look like the Demogorgon though. So that's what's been going on with me art-wise. In case I'd run out of things to talk about, I'd grabbed a couple of recent, I know, right? A couple of recent art supply flyers. He's like, oh, maybe we could flip through and look at them together and talk about them. And Joseph's laughing at me in the background. But we're not going to do that because that, I don't know, that sounds like not y'all's jam. What we are going to do tonight, though, is I've pulled a bunch of American, for the most part, art and how-to books that I just kind of wanted to share with you guys and flip through. There's some of my favorites that I've really enjoyed or that I really like using when I'm teaching. How to draw the cutest of characters. You're right. They're in no particular order either. So, actually, I will quickly swap these. And I don't know where any of my Andrew Loomis books are, and I don't know where like a bunch of my other class books are. I think they're downstairs, and I just ran out of time to go fetch them. But I have a big stack for tonight, so I think this is going to be plenty. Anyway, this perspective book, they used to sell these at Michael's like 15 years ago. And honestly, this is a really good basic book on perspective, and this is how I first learned. And it was like pretty, perspective is kind of like trigonometry, where you can have it introduced to you several times and you never pick it up until you have to use it, and then you're like scrambling to teach yourself. So this was kind of before YouTube tutorials and before there were any really good online tutorials. And as you guys can see, I like marked the heck up out of this book. So I actually really like this one. And then I have I have 3 of the David Chelsea specialized like perspective for comics books. And somebody was asking me in another chat about 3-point perspective, which I avoid if I can help it. I think I would probably like set up a mock-up and just work from the mock-up rather than try to compute 3-point. Yeah, that was one of the ones. Well, the person who asked, they originally were asking about fisheye, but what they really meant was 3-point. This book talks about fisheye, but I would probably also do a mock-up. And I mean, in this book, he talks about like gridding it out on a sphere, but I have so much respect for David Chelsea, and I have no desire to do this myself. And then I've talked about this book a couple of times, and I'm really enjoying this one. It's a Japanese book that's been translated, and it's all about using Copics for different textures and stuff. Indy, there's a lot of really good conversation about the fact that they're not really depicting Europeans when they, when characters have like strange colored eyes or strange colored hair. Unfortunately, I don't have that link handy, but it really isn't intended to depict European people. It would be like white-skinned Americans, right? Like depicting pink-haired characters or whatever, right? And assuming that that's all I'm not even describing this well. This is like an in-depth topic, and it does come up. Yeah, right? It's a Thank you. You got it. It's a shorthand, and it wasn't necessarily intended for people in other countries to consume it. So you have to think about it from the lens of that original creator. And I'm not at all doing it justice, and I'm not really the person to speak to it. So I may try to dig up a link on it later. But generally, when Europeans are depicted in manga or in anime, they're depicted with like I could go grab Vinland Saga, because that would be considered like a depiction of Europeans. Or I could grab Bride's Tale, because there's like a set difference between how different ethnic groups are depicted. Well, I thought I had Vinland Saga in the other room, but I don't. Okay, so like in Bride's Tale, for example, this guy is an Englishman, and they generally, or Kawamori generally depicts his nose as bigger, and he's got blonde hair, things like that. So there's like certain traits that are repetitively used to imply that a character is European. Just like there are certain traits to imply that a character is of African descent or African American descent or Haitian descent. So they tend to be very caricature, and I feel like it is not a topic that I am comfortable commenting on too much, because I am not Japanese and I am not a mangaka, and I am not from that background. So anyway, are you laughing at me? I really don't feel comfortable. If I had good examples that showed what I was talking about, I could just point and see this is usually what is used when drawing Europeans. But I don't feel comfortable having an opinion on it one way or the other as an artist, because that's not my cultural background. That's not my heritage. So the Will Eisner Library has several really good books. Graphic storytelling and visual narrative is really great, and I really like it for my students, because a lot of them come into the class and they kind of know how to draw, or they know how to draw it, and they have a story they want to tell, and they have no idea how to put it in a comic format. That's the big one they come to me with, is like, how do I put my comic in panels? And this is a good one just because he kind of breaks it down, and I have a few books on graphic storytelling because it's an area I think I'm kind of weak at. So it's an area that I would like to improve upon. On that note, I also try to have books on making comics for younger readers, and I feel like there is a gap between books intended for like adults who've been reading comics for 20 years and books for young kids who want to make comics. So my dream is to one day do a series of books kind of aimed at teenagers or older kids on making their own comics, because a lot of these books focus more on like just kind of touching on everything super briefly, but not really demonstrating anything too in depth, because they want to cover some of everything, which I think is admirable. One of the books I'm missing because it is downstairs, or I may have loaned it out to somebody, is Drawing Words and Writing Pictures by Matt something and Jess Abel. And that's a really good book. And then its follow-up, Mastering Comics, really builds on that. And I really like how they've used two books to kind of build on these topics. Storytelling through comics, or comics as a craft in general. These books focus more on comics as a craft in general, but my students are usually more interested in storytelling through comics. So what they're doing in this is just presenting several exercises and introducing a variety of types of comics. So this would be good for somebody who they're completely new to comics, but they'd like to start making comics, and they're looking for inspiration and ways they can get into making comics. Oh, living the dream. I like how go to a comics convention is before. Wow, that is quite a setup there. I think a lot of us use grids and pipes instead, but that might be more lightweight. I can't imagine flying with that. Writing a proposal, writing a script. It's kind of sad that the living a dream section is like that short. Are you laughing? I mean, like, everybody wants to talk about it, but nobody wants to talk about it. And then this one is really cute. It's by Chihiro Howe. I think I picked it up at a Anime Expo a couple years ago. And I really like her art in general. But one of the things I really, really like about this is the color sections are done in Copic marker. And it's kind of a mix of like, this is a book about making comics, and this is a book about using Copics. So for me, it kind of like hits the sweet spot of things I really like. So there's a lot of really cute and interesting things in this book. And even though it's aimed kind of at younger artists, I think it's really approachable, and there's a lot I've learned from it too. Also, I'm just so impressed by like the full Copic pages, like wow. Then of course we go from like very approachable to like James Gurney. I hope y'all are ready for Dinotopia. And I used to really love his blog. I just don't have as much time to read. I guess ever since feed readers quit being as prevalent, I've been unable to kind of keep up with my favorite blogs, and I've noticed that's true for a lot of people. How dare you, Google Reader, dying on us. But anyway, this is kind of considered one of like the definitive books on handling light and color, which is an area I still need to work on myself. You're right, I don't. Well, for me, with the not thinking of light as directional, that's mental laziness on my part. I'm trying to get better about it, but oh, the bromeliads. I was trying to think of, I overworked that piece. That's the problem. Oh, those are do you not feel that it has lighting? Oh, you said I did a good job. I was like, I worked hard on that one. I was about to be all hurt, like, come on. Oh, look at that. That's cool. He actually talks about how to think about dappled light, which is one of the things I really want to improve on. And I feel like if I was working digitally, and maybe I should be working digitally so I can build it up as like a skill, like level up my thinking of that. But if I was working digitally, it would be very easy for him. Not that he is, by the way. God rays and dappled light. I could add those in digitally super easy. No, look at how he's explaining both. Like it's whatever, you can see it on your screen. Like I've never really, that's a really easy way, like he's made that into a very easy symbol. But yeah, I would like to get better at doing dappled light because I want to do a lot of images where like Kara is sitting under leaves or under plants and you have like that dappled green gold light. I think it's really beautiful, and I have all these reference photos of how I want to do it, and maybe I should just do it digitally to get myself some practice. Okay, so that was Color and Light, iiiAcademy, Drawing Comics Lab, Will Eisner Graphic Storytelling and Visual Narrative, How to Render Eye-Catching Textures with Copic Markers, Perspective in Action, and the Walter Foster Perspective book. I'm gonna go grab some more and put these back. Yes, I did. Sorry. I wanted to save, I can show you right now. I wanted to save them for their own review. So these are the, that's awesome, thank you. So I can actually be like, these are the ones they were selling at Dollar Tree. I have checked the website like 6 times. I hit $5 trees while I was in Louisiana. I asked other people and nobody had seen them. I believe you 100%. I think you just have like the magical Dollar Tree. So I'm like double excited to take a look at these now that I know that these are like the originator of the Dollar Tree markers. So going back to books, the Dollar Forest. I like going to Dollar Tree. The Dollar Trees in Nashville suck though. We've been to a couple and they're awful. Hey Nancy. Oh yeah, could you grab a link? Shoot, it's in that pile unfortunately. I don't know because it's got like a long title. You could, it would be in my order history on Amazon as well because I bought it from Amazon. Not recently, but yeah, he'll grab a link. So when I was at SCAD, I took a few writing classes and Story is one of the ones. Story and 5 C's of Cinematography are 2 of the ones that are like perennially recommended. And this one is about screenwriting and writing scripts for comics are very similar. They're structured the same way. The way you conceptualize shots is very similar. So for people who are kind of struggling with putting their story idea into like a more visual format, this book, Story, while it's a big chunk of a book, could be a really good way to kind of break through that. And it also introduces a lot of the language that's often used in comics and often used in screenwriting, like beat or object of desire, protagonist. So when I'm teaching, I'm usually referencing this book without realizing I'm referencing this book. So I need to be bringing this one in more. I actually probably need to reread it. A link to Story. I'm gonna do links to all the books in the description at the end. Joseph, would you also pop a link to Story, the Robert McKee one, in? So I mentioned David Chelsea earlier. Here's another one of his perspective books. And if I'm doing complicated perspective, which is so rare for me, his is the book I will usually pull up. Like he even had, bless you, David Chelsea, you are a brave soul, because he's even got a method for doing spiral staircases, which is like, oh my, nowadays I would just be like, we're gonna use Google SketchUp for this one. Also, the way he writes these books it's really engaging. Like, it's just a fun book to read. So, like, even if you don't plan on referencing it strictly for the perspective, it's just kind of an enjoyable read. And he's talking about shadows in this one. So, like, one of the things, anytime I show you guys my books, I'm always like, oh, I need to reread that. I need to go through that and take notes. So here's the fisheye perspective. And like map projections as well. In cylindrical perspective, how crazy is that? Wow, I should have paid more attention in math class. Anyway, I'm just impressed by all the effort he's put into figuring out the perspective and creating blue line printables for people. And this is really old. This is the first marker book I've ever owned. I think it was written in like the 80s. It is written for like product designers to be able to do product mock-ups in marker. So yeah, wow. There's a Chart Pack AD, there's an old Pantone, that's a magic marker from a million years ago. Yeah, these are all super old markers. But this was kind of my first introduction to using alcohol markers, and like this is still kind of neat where you could like saturate a cotton pad held by a bull clip with some liquid alcohol ink. Could do that even now. Just stuff like that. Or using mixed media with your markers. So, or how to do like reflections and shine with markers. And I mean, look at this. We've still got the stripes going on. Using toned papers. Ain't nothing new. Or masking so that you can get like a really clean edge. Ain't nothing new under this old sun. Using a Q-tip to do a soft blur. I don't do that. I mean, you can do that now with brush tips, but that could be a really useful technique. That's neat too, where you lay down a field of color and then you... See, there's some gold in this book too, even though it's an older book. This one I really love. I backed his Kickstarter when it was going on several years ago. And when I talk about like books for making comics and some of my complaints, this is one of the ones that actually addresses it, because most of what he talks about, this is Brick by Brick by Stephen McCraney. Sorry, having trouble talking tonight. But most of what he talks about in this book is just more of a holistic drawing approach. So it's more of like the mental thought process involved in taking the mental thought process involved in undertaking a large project like a comic. Sorry. Ooh. So this is one of my favorites. He has a workbook for this as well, which maybe I should get it, because I've been really struggling emotionally lately with my creative life. So maybe taking some time and being more thoughtful and more meditative about like what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, who's it for, how I feel about it, could help me resolve some things. Oh no, that's awful. I'm sorry to hear that, Tyra. But anyway, this is a really, really great book. I wish I saw it in bookstores. I think it might be on Amazon, or maybe you can get it through his website. I'm going to dig it up and pop links in the description for you guys. But I highly recommend it for anybody who has an ongoing comic project or is looking to start a comic project. Also, like, he and I used to talk a lot on Twitter, and he's a really nice guy. And he's got some other books, other comics out now. But this is still my favorite. And I used to loan this book out to people frequently, and now I don't, because I don't want to lose. I've lost too many books that way. But if you can find it, this one I really recommend. I really love this book. And then another book on, this is more for animation, but a lot of what they talk about can be applied to comics. And then of course, you know, I read it because I Wrote a lot of notes in it. See if I can find a good way to flip through it. So there's a lot about storyboarding as well. And storyboarding and making comics are very similar in how you sort of think about things. The difference really is storyboarding, you're eventually adding movement, and the way you frame your shots indicates that. Whereas with comics, you're probably never going to add movement. So he kind of takes us through the process of storyboarding. He's creating a fictional movie. I forgot what the... Oh, it's 1001 Nights. So Scheherazade telling stories to entertain her emperor. And also includes like technical planning for storyboards. And I know a lot of comic people do make the switch from comics to animation because you can find more work. That's my sticky notes. Ah, good to know. What of mine is impact? I know I do have some impact books, but I have a lot of older stuff because I haven't really been buying new stuff. I do have that. Wait, which one? It's on the shelf. Are you did somebody ask about a book? Oh, yeah. And I have it, and it was on super sale, so it kind of doesn't surprise me that they went out. That's a shame that they didn't let their... Oh, thanks, Barrett. So talking about screen continuity, which is, even though it is not an animated art form, screen continuity, viewer continuity, camera continuity is really important in comics. So that was directing the story. Give me a sec, I'll grab another pile. Yeah, I think like half my books are downstairs. So since I teach comics now, I've been looking for ideas on curricula that, so the way I teach comics is not like, it's not like you're sitting every day or every other day in a class for an hour and you have mandatory assignments and you have mandatory sketchbook checks and I assign grades. I teach comics through one of the local art stores. I teach comics through my hometown's library system, and I teach comics through community ed. So I have to be really flexible with how I teach comics and how what kind of assignments I give and what I can expect from people, because some people do everything I ask of them and more, and some people don't try at all and phone it in, and that's okay because like they paid to take this class and it's optional. So I ended up buying Syllabus by Linda Berry because I was feeling, after my first semester of teaching with NCE, I was just feeling really tapped. Like, I come from a family of teachers, but like my aunt is a kindergarten teacher. They have a set curriculum, and my mom taught, she taught 7th grade math for 20 years and then reading recovery for 4 years, and they have set curriculums. I don't have a set curricula. You guys see that I have a lot of comic how-to books in my collection, but I don't have any books on like, this is how you would teach comics. So I kind of feel like I'm learning as I go. So Linda Berry is a comic artist, and she teaches comics, and she teaches comics in a variety of ways. So sticky notes. So when I saw this pop up in my Amazon recommended reading, I was like, oh, I really need to get this because I have a lot of respect for her work, and I'm really looking to diversify how I'm teaching comics and to engage my students in a different way. And even though I didn't take every single thing from this book, because this is like a collection of 3 years of her syllabuses for different types of classes, and some of them are like journaling classes, and some of them are comic classes, and some of them are just kind of like mindfulness classes. So there are a variety of classes, but it ended up giving me a lot of good ideas for exercises and for ways we can start the classroom, start the class each meeting, things like that. So even though this wasn't like a set curricula of like, this is how you teach comics, which isn't necessarily what I was looking for anyway, it gave me a lot of really good ideas. Also, it's just kind of a beautiful book. I mean, some of her assignments are just like spend the entire class coloring from a coloring book page, and you can't leave any white, which for a college class, I don't know. I trust that she knows what she's doing. I would have to be in the class to be able to judge the effectiveness, but like I could not get away with that in my community ed comics classes. Like they would leave to go take yoga. Anyway, in terms of like teaching comics or teaching art, I think this is one of the neater books in my collection. I do, yeah. And then, of course, I have this, and I pre-ordered it because, of course. And this one is this is Arena Telgemeier, How to Do Comics books. And I think I think it's great that she released this. There's a lot of cool stuff in it, but I definitely feel like this is for much younger artists, which is awesome. Like there definitely needs to be stuff for like really young artists out there. But it's also kind of like a diary, which I know some people love those like reckless diary kind of books. I don't. I mark up my books, but not like okay, like it's a small book and it's already kind of hard to keep it open. Yeah, I bought the hardcover, but like this, I write huge. I would never have been able to write in this book as a kid. Little A, little B. It's a lot of like how to go about doing an autobio comic is how it feels. Focusing around smile, drama, and ghosts. And then they have like the preset panel borders where I'm kind of like, oh. But honestly, like whatever it takes to get people to draw comics is awesome and valid and good by me. Speaking of drawing, this is one of my favorite books outside of the Glenn Vilppu drawing manual, which is also missing from my shelf. It must be downstairs. That's one of my favorite for sure. And this is Jack Ham's Drawing the Head and Figure, and I think I've shown this to you guys before. I really like this book, even though it's a little bit older and some of the advice feels a little bit more dated. There's also a lot of really good stuff. Like this is foreshortening the head from the side, for example. A lot of just really good stuff that could, yeah, there are nudes in this. I'll try to skip them though. A lot of good stuff in this book, like proportions and proportioning the figure and different ways of thinking about the figure. And unfortunately, if we're talking about figure drawing, generally, yeah, we are talking about nudity. Although my From Stick to Figure class is an all ages figure drawing class, you know, you generally do have nudity when you're talking about figure drawing. But like drawing the feet, that's something that most people need a lot of help with. Drawing the hands, drawing clothing, I really, really love. You guys have seen when we were talking about doing wrinkles and stuff. I really love how he breaks down how clothing folds work on the body. So this is a really good handy resource that it's one of those resources where it's not going to teach you how to do everything, but it's like a handy field guide for just about anything you're going to want to draw. Oh yeah, that's a Sears is out of business, isn't it? And unfortunately this week Richard Williams died. So I thought it would be a good time to show the Animator's Survival Kit. And yes, I do have a physical copy of this book, and I feel like I paid out the wazoo for this. It's a used copy. So I have a lot of animation books in my collection because I find it helpful, and the style I draw in is very cartoony. So books that help me be more cartoony is great. And this one talks a lot about timing, and timing is also important for comics, although perhaps not as important as it is for animation. And again, I know a lot of comic artists are doing kind of what they need to do to be able to also work in animation. So this book is probably a wonderful resource for learning how to make that switch, or at least learning additional skills. So there's a lot about poses and timing. And a lot about body, like the movement of weight when you're drawing weight. And facial expressions, and kind of exaggerating facial expressions, squash and stretch. And kind of caricature and cartooning. So that is Richard Williams, the Animator's Survival Kit. Speaking of facial expressions, I know it's a little bit dated now that we have like Google Images and stuff, but sometimes you can't find the angle and you can't find the expression that you want. So it's handy to have resources that kind of help with that. What I usually do if I can't find it is I'll get Joseph to make the facial expression, or I'll make it and I'll take a photo of it. In fact, I keep a little hand mirror at my desk for that. Artists of the future are gonna think we're all serial killers because there's like all these books of like just weird facial expressions. And this is, I think, volume 2 of Drawn to Life. There's 2 books. The green one is volume 1, yeah, and the blue one is volume 2. I really recommend Drawn to Life. It's by Walt Stanchfield. He used to do the lectures at Disney, like the drawing and the life lectures, if that makes sense. And book 1 is my favorite of the 2, but book 2 is also great. And there's just all kinds of like helpful, just little tidbits from like staging and composition to sketching people and capturing movement and gesture, and also just kind of like life philosophy. So sort of like brick by brick, it's also about thinking about things and thinking about your career and thinking about your progress in a more healthy way. Both, yeah, I really, really love the Drawn to Life books. It's, well, I mean, there's a lot for animators in here, but he didn't just teach animators, he taught designers, he taught the people who did the figure drawing stuff. So it's kind of just like a mishmash of good stuff. Because like I'm flipping through really fast and there's like talking about the shape of gesture, which is useful for comic people, and tangents and moons, and I don't know what the right and left hemispheres are, but perspective and foreshortening. Like there's a lot of stuff for just almost any kind of artist. There might actually, volume 1 might have stuff about, I do have books that talk about drawing crowd scenes, and it's just circles with like shoulder humps is a lot of them. And then finally for tonight, because we could go on forever, but I'm sure you guys do not want to go on forever. We have Making Comics, which is kind of a classic, the Scott McCloud. I think Understanding Comics is usually the one that's better regarded because it talks more about what panels mean and what the gutters mean and what the panel borders mean. And for people who could just do like ad nauseum analysis of comics, Understanding Comics is great. Making Comics is also great too. But it's just more of like a how-to. So this one kind of covers, like a lot of the how to draw comic books, it covers a little of everything, a little perspective, a little anatomy, a little bit of like traditional comic techniques. This one might be more my jam though, because it gets nerdy about art supplies. And then he talks about manga, which usually books from this time period, when they talk about manga, it's a little bit grating, but Scott McCloud has a lot of respect for manga. In fact, Zot carries a lot of manga influence. That's one of his earlier comics. So when I would read his stuff about manga, I really learned a lot. And it wasn't just like people who draw in this style just wish they were in Japan. You know, that's old thinking anyway. People don't necessarily think like that anymore. So I might own like one digital how to draw book, but really I like buying them in a physical format because I like loaning them to people and I like showing them to people and I like having that moment where it's like I'm showing something to someone and we're both talking about it, or they're showing me something that they discovered and we're both talking about it. And right now I can't really do that on Kindle. I could do it with like PDF scans, you know, mark it up using like Adobe, but usually the PDF scans are not really legal copies. How do I recommend people assess an art book if they're thinking about buying it? That's a really good question. Okay, here is the thing about art books and libraries. Some libraries have really good collections of art books, and some have terrible collections, and it's nothing younger, than the 1950s. Like they have Loomis and they have Bridgman, both of whom I love, and that's it. They don't have anything newer like that, and heaven forbid they have anything about animation or comics, because that's trash. So some libraries have like a really good how to draw, drawing, comics, etc. section, and some have a terrible one. You can always fill out a library request form for any book that you want. You want to read Share Your Smile? Fill out a library request form. You want to read Drawing the Head and Figure? Fill out a library request form. And probably not this one because you can Google that. You want to read the Animator's Survival Kit? Fill out a request form. Making Comics? Fill out a request form, because libraries have a budget that they need to spend or they lose their budget. And buying books that people will enjoy and books that will help other people is a great way to use their budget. In fact, you can request 7-inch Kara Volume 1, my comic, using a library request form. So if you have a budget of no dollars, which I 100% respect, library request forms are awesome. Now they may not be able to get the book like that, but they should be able to get the book in a couple of years, which is better than never getting the book ever. How do I assess a book? Gosh. You know, you're gonna get mad at me for saying this, but I used to just buy kind of like willy-nilly. Like if I liked the art or if artists I respect said that it was a good book, I would buy it. Yeah, pretty much, sight unseen. That's how I bought this one, and I have zero regrets about this one. This is great. But what I also used to do was when sharing PDFs was much more common, and I'm sure it's still common, but I'm just not on those kind of sites anymore. I would get PDFs of like older art books. Like that's how I read the Andrew Loomis books when they were out of print, and that's how I read the Glenville Pooh Drawing Manual when it was out of print. And then as soon as it got back into print, I bought them. But I also had money that I could spend on it, like some people don't. But that was how.
Libraries pirating and buying sight unseen.
people who like that's why I have like streams where I flip through books that I really like and talk about them so that people can see if it's a book that they would like, so that they're not just buying stuff just to buy stuff. Yeah. You can always ask your favorite artists like what their favorite resources are. Some will tell you and some won't. I try to have like a really open door policy about that because I learned from somewhere. I feel like everybody has to learn from somewhere. So I'm looking at my bookshelf and trying to decide if there's anything else I want to show you guys tonight. I don't know. Yeah, that's it for tonight. But I'm like looking to see if I can see like the Glenville Pooh drawing manual might have like escaped my gaze, or like figure drawing for all it's worth. Maybe I didn't put it back where it was supposed to go, but I think they're all downstairs with my other class materials. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for tonight. This kind of makes up for like the 3-hour streams we were doing when we were looking at Faber-Castell stuff. Keep it short, keep it sweet. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I'm going to have a link as soon as we finish this. I'm going to get to listing everything out in the description and having links for you guys if you're interested in any of them. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I kind of wrecked my hand today and I still have a page to draw. So what I might do is I might take a break. I might do the book thing that I said I was going to do, and I might like do a quiet stream where I pencil this page for tomorrow, but I would just be like a low-key listen to music and draw stream. So yes, I think I will do that. So I'm gonna my BRB image is old. What can I do to have a decent BRB for you other than sing terrible songs at you? Is making comics, a 6-week comic making class, visible on your screen? Okay, so I'm gonna drink some water, take a short break, hit the bathroom, and get these listed in the descriptions, and then I'm just gonna like quietly pencil on stream. So thank you guys so much for joining me this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you maybe found a book that you're interested in checking out or requesting from your library or checking out at your school. And I will hopefully see you guys next week with something exciting and interesting that I have yet to figure out, but I will figure it out. someday I'd like to have a studio. Right now I have a big bookcase in my studio, but I'd like it to be closer to my desk so that I actually reference things when I'm drawing. Teaching, though, has been really useful for me in that it kind of forces me to revisit the materials I have and think about them and learn new things. Just sort of typing everything up for you guys right now. That's what that clickety clack's all about. This is going to be the one that's going to be harder to find. This one I really like. Like, I haven't finished reading it all the way through yet, but just like showing different textures and then the step by step. I also appreciate that they didn't blow these photos out to heck and back to get like the shadows all white, which I think a lot of American book companies do. I've certainly seen it really commonly done on like blogs and stuff. Just because then you start losing nuance with what's actually going on. It's honestly really, really hard to do lighting for original art pieces where the lighting works for you, the artist, the lighting works for the camera, and the lighting works for the printed format. I mean, look at that grass. That grass is great. Just all their textures are really impressive. There's this anthro artist I'm following on Twitter, and they do really amazing textures and skies and backgrounds. Their art's really beautiful. And then look at that sunset. Oh, how dear. I'm sorry, morning glow. It's a sunrise. I'm glad it got translated into English. Oh, cool. Because there's a lot of really cool Copic books that are like Japanese only. And I mean, I don't mean to like crap on how to draw comic books. Like, I think I'm really glad these exist. These kind of books didn't really exist when I was, well, they were out of print when I was a teenager. Like, the Famous Artist course and the Famous Artist Cartoonist course are both amazing, and I think you can download those as PDFs. But like, I was a teenager at a time where like those were out of print, so my library didn't have it, and I they weren't really scanned and on the internet yet. So like for my teenagers, comic instruction was just not a thing. Ah, no problem, Nancy. I'm happy to help. Always excited to introduce people to more awesome books. Chihiro's Instagram is full of really cute stuff. I also really enjoy her Twitter account. Sorry about that. Kind of, but also not really, because as I was picking up books, I saw more books I wanted to show you guys. So I guess there's a part 2. I'm still kind of pulling books, so I'll be right back. This has got to be it, because I'm about to fall over. Okay. Yeah, I do. Gosh, I feel like I like special ordered this. That was when I was still able to like justify buying books. I still have so many. But I'm particularly drawn to art books of like illustrations, as well as like watercolor and marker art books are particularly my favorite. I love their use of color too. And they have such a simple art style, but it's so beautiful. I'm always like, oh, I should do that, and then I can't. And that's what it really means to be good at something, is you make it seem effortless or look effortless, and it's not. And all this surface design is so beautiful, and it feels so light and airy. And then the color play on some of these are so nice. The paper it's printed on is nice too, because it has a bit of a texture, so it's almost like it's printed on watercolor paper. I do wish I could draw people just kind of staring off into space, and it'd be as beautiful and as well received as when they draw beautiful people staring off into space. That's truly like aesthetic goals for me. Oh man, this is so cool. And like you can see the different themes they were playing with as you progress through the book, which is something else I really like when I'm looking at other artists' collections, is like seeing what techniques they are playing with or what themes they are playing with. It's gorgeous. And then of course the interior cover is beautiful. So that is Grow, the Art of Koyamori. So I also pulled, I have a lot of different things here. So more reference books. I think I picked this up from Kinokuniya. It's like reference for sword fighting, because I draw so much action. But I think I got it because I don't draw enough action, and I was like, oh, I could practice more, and I should. That is a thing that I should do. And sometimes it can be really hard to find good action poses online, so I think there might still be a place. I would prefer, like, I wish there was like a CD in the back of all these images, because some of these are like tiny for, you know, for reference. And maybe someone can tell us what the title is, or I can go back. Real Action Post Collection 2! Exclamation point, exclamation point. Hey Joseph, what's the title of this book? Practice your Japanese. You've been studying. Say it loud. Kanji for gate. Should I Google Translate it after the stream? You know what? I will leave you with that book while I go through some of these others, give you a chance to think about it.
Nah, I can barely read any of it.
Oh, okay.
I can read some of the katakana further down.
Sure. You can read more than I can. I cannot read any. Yes, I have a lot of clamp stuff. A lot. Particularly any of their stuff where it's more traditional media. The AX where you and I met, Nisa, I don't know if you know, but up in the the vendors hall, the exhibition hall, they had like this really cool reproduction area where they had, it was like a gallery with like dash reproductions of different pieces of art, and they had a bunch of stuff from Clamp, and I have all these pictures of like where you can see they corrected things, because I don't know, something about like actually being able to see that people you look up to made mistakes and then how they fix their mistakes is really awesome. And for everybody who's tired of seeing Kara drawn 1 million times, it's art books like this that I'm like, nope, I can do it. I have a justification. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? It's so soft. I wonder how they got that. Like, it looks like watercolor, but it's like watercolor and then maybe alcohol marker. And to be able to get this really soft texture and like the color transition, maybe they masked it and used the ABS or something similar. And then look at all this confetti. You were talking about crowd scenes, Joseph. That's a way to do a crowd scene. You see it? It's getting kind of blown out. I'll pull it. So it's just little circle faces with like E70 for hair and then little red hats. But it works really well for what they're conveying. CCS is my favorite of Clamp stuff as well. I like the aesthetic for Clover. It's really cutely drawn, but in general, their stories sort of feel like mush to me. Like, we tend to revisit the same themes over and over again, and things seem to fall apart really quickly. Like, they expect us to bring the canon from their other books over. Look, isn't that beautiful? I wonder if these are digitally composited or if they were hand cut. I know, she's got the best style. Tomoyo is the best stylist. Where does she find time to sew all these beautiful things? How dare you be so good? Clamp is the reason I want to do nothing but just draw pretty girls wearing cute outfits all the time. Ooh, that looks like either color pencil or maybe a little bit of pastel. Senpai Moonlight. And then this is neat too, because they also explain like a little bit of what's going on in the image or what the thought process was. Yeah, I really like Clamp's art, even if I don't always like their stories. Oh man, for Claire card, that would be so pretty. Her outfits are so cute. Man, this is, let's see, I think it says 89. Yeah, I was like, oh man, this feels so 80s. Cause it is. I like how they're handling the hair. Like, okay. While I think the art style is very cute, it feels like early digital to me, which I know it's not. Because like, just looking at the timeline, there's no way it could be early digital. But it's like, all those soft fades has that very early digital feel, whereas this is much crisper. I just wanna do pinup art that doesn't go anywhere. Clamp School Detectives. Oh my gosh, of course, matching Terabad outfits. You have to. That's why you write multiple characters of the same age, so you can draw them all in matching outfits. I have some how to draw books at the bottom too. What I was thinking about was like more marker stuff and more watercolor stuff. So that's kind of what I grabbed, was stuff that is more of like my type of traditional media. I love how soft they did the eyes too. Must have taken, it looks like maybe color pencil. Something I really enjoy doing when I have time is like looking at art books and figuring out what media they used and how they achieved the techniques they achieved. This looks like Wish, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, I'm glad, Nisa. This looks like watercolor on like maybe a tracing paper in order to get that like oversaturated bleed effect. Ooh, this is such a nice use of like a toned paper. Unfortunately, I think whenever they scanned it, it seemed to make it a little more blue. The paper itself, a little more blue than what the original is, but it's still really pretty. It's so hard to scan this kind of stuff too. I haven't done any style tests in a while. I miss making time for that. I know that's not Charmander, but I'm gonna pretend it's Charmander. Maybe it is. Who knows? Man, Clam likes the fan service. What are you? Oh yeah, I forgot. Miyuki-chan is like all fan service. A shoujo Pokemon? Oh, I think there would be people. Oh yeah, I forgot. There's like a how-to section in here, and it's so tiny. No, it's just small. Like they talk about doing graphite transfers, and then watercolor with non-waterproof inks, and then using a heat gun to remove your masking frisket. Ah, I'd take it. No, I mean I want a book of just how they do what they do, like how to be Clamp. Yeah, for real. They don't want us knowing their secrets. This is really cool how they did that. That's really cool. Yeah, really. And then the patience they have to do the lace dress. They love twins. ice is nice. And just think, all of this was done either watercolor or alcohol marker or white gouache. Do you guys remember when like everybody online drew their chibis like this? Like this was the style that you drew your chibis in? I might be dating myself. What about air? Yeah, probably some airbrush too. I'm not as familiar with what to look for when I'm looking at airbrush stuff, so I wouldn't necessarily be able to be like, yeah, that's airbrush. I just wouldn't know. This is a cool effect. The flame around him. This is nice too, all the dappled green. I bet this is gorgeous in real life because I know all of like this is metallic gold. Just from like looking at it, I can tell that it was metallic gold. So it's probably really impressive in real life. This one too, because I think all of like the gold on her is metallic gold. Oh, that's so pretty. I wonder if they painted the flowers on top of the image. Probably so. That's really cool though. Here we go. It's starting to look more like digital coloring. The firefly effect is really nice. Oh, that's so pretty, especially with the transparency. And no how-to section in this one. Oh, goodness. And then another Will Eisner book. This one is Expressive Anatomy. And I really feel like a lot, that is some Bridgman right there. But I feel like a lot of these anatomy books, you could like take bits and pieces from all of them and use them kind of interchangeably. This one is really more about like storytelling through pose and through like how you draw the people. What do you mean? Oh, for sure. So a lot of my work, as you guys know, is watercolor, and I always want to get better at watercolor, and capturing motion is something that I think is really important to be able to do with watercolor comics, and it is not always my strength. It is often not my strength. So I picked this up at McKay's, and it's actually a very interesting book on watercolor, even though it's a little bit older. It's Capturing Motion in Watercolor by Douglas Liu. And don't worry, I'm going to add these to the list. But that's one of the reasons I want to take up maybe sumi-e painting or Chinese watercolor, something that's much more gestural, much more emotive, and more reliant on the brush strokes than on kind of the way I normally paint, which is kind of like a fill by numbers kind of thing. So this is way more gestural and emotive. Especially that. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Of course, if you want if you want this kind of really nice wet into wet movement, working with a nice cotton rag paper is going to be really important, because you want that blending out, which I can't always get on. I often can't get on cellulose based papers. It's either dry or it's puddled. So yeah, that is Capturing Motion in Watercolor. And then I have atmospheric watercolors as well. I have no desire really to be a watercolorist. I just want to be a better watercolor comic artist. And I figure learning a variety of interesting techniques will make me a better storyteller, because there's more I can do with it. Of course, I need to actually put that into practice. But this one's really more about what you don't paint rather than what you do paint. And look, Daniel Smith. And also like fun techniques that you can use to kind of liven things up. So that is Jean Haines' Atmospheric Watercolors. And you can tell it's British. And then this is a really important one. We were talking about comic how-to books, and I mentioned Brick by Brick. This is Draw Stronger, and I need to reread this because I've been having hand and back problems, so clearly I am not taking good care of myself. But it's all about just like exercises you can do and things you can do to kind of prolong your working life as an artist. Oh hey, we all know the artist slump. What long note did I write to myself? It was a how-to for chapter 8. No, well, Kara, pitches, guest posts. Oh, it's what I did this week. Wow, not this week, but that week. This one, it is Draw Stronger, Self-Care for Cartoonists and Visual Artists by Greta Wellberg. And I may have mispronounced their name. Even more watercolor books. I don't know about you guys, but because I am self-taught when it comes to watercolor, I learned from reading books and watching YouTube and that kind of stuff, and a lot of like figuring things out on my own. I always feel like I've just never learned how to do it, so it means I have a large collection of watercolor books. So this is the Complete Watercolorist Essential Notebook. I think they have a workbook version of this as well, with like exercises for you to work along with. Eggy. all these books are full of so many good ideas and good things. Yes, I definitely do watch Japanese watercolor videos, and then I will rewind it 6 times, and then I'll send it to Kino Kitsune and be like, do you understand what's going on? Can you figure out what they're doing with that water brush? Speaking of brushes, I love how gestural the brushwork is, though. It's very loose. I wonder how big he's working. I don't... Actually, it looks like not even that big. But, ooh, cool. It's actually with a bunch of Pentel brush pins. I have Pentel brush pins. I am sure I could do exactly this. I could be this good. It would be fun to try, though. All of his stuff is so great. All of it. So great. Actually, what's really cool is the brush marks on the skin to help give dimension. It's like just the most watered down white correctional fluid, or maybe even like Derwent Inktense white, like brushed out with water. I don't know, but it really helps define the form. Secret, secret. And more clamp. Honestly, clamp has a huge influence on my art as well. We don't tell the same kind of stories at all, but just the sort of things I'm drawn to and the sort of things I think are pretty and that I like drawing. Aw, she's so cute too. She's just like a little ray of sunshine. That one's so cute. Yeah, this one's matte. Oh gosh, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. I feel like if you remember it being glossy, then it's probably glossy.
No, I'm saying some of the pages in the book I think were glossy, and some of the pages I think were matte.
This is the Naoki Urasawa official guidebook. I'll flip through it backwards just because it's a little bit easier for me to flip this way. Speaking of drawing Europeans and Americans differently than how they draw Japanese people, Naoki Urasawa draws Europeans. Like this is from Inspector Keaton, and this guy is European and this guy is Japanese. Having like very distinct ways of drawing different nationalities. But then it's always a fine line between like caricature and insulting caricature. Stereotyping so that people are quickly recognizable, and stereotyping to the point where it's offensive. Oh, speaking of Naoki Urasawa, if you guys have not watched Manben and you're interested in manga art, comic art, you guys should definitely try to dig it up. I wish they would I wish NHK would bring it over. I wish somebody would bring it over and translate it, because it is amazing and it's entirely in Japanese. You can only watch it with fan subs, and that is unfortunate because it is awesome. This is another one I'm gonna have to flip through backwards. I'm sorry. One day, Joseph, you can read this to me. The comic here. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Also, something that kind of reminds me of this that you guys might enjoy is Atelier Sento's work. They have an Instagram and a YouTube, and they also make games, and their games are really, really cool. And it's got kind of like the Studio Ghibli watercolor aesthetic like going on, which is why I'm thinking of it. Oh, these are from only yesterday. And Grave of the Fireflies. And older things too. I swear, these look like they're from, oh, the game. Oh, they are! They're from Ni no Kuni. And then I also grabbed some books. We've looked at these, I think, before. But I grabbed them because they have like really nice watercolor illustrations in them, or color pencil illustrations, or Copic illustrations. And I just like seeing how other artists do what they do and like their thought process. For like doing the reflection. You are on it with the links, thank you. I wish this was more of a more popular in America, these sort of step-by-step art books. I guess they are for fine art, but not for like comic and illustration art. But I wish they were more popular for comic and illustration art. That was one of the things I always kind of wanted my blog to be, was like this kind of thing. I mean, I know my art isn't this level, you know, but you got to start somewhere and build up to it. Ah! I can't believe that's not digital. That would be so much easier to do digitally. That's really cool though that they walk this step by step through it. I really thought that piece was a digital art. No, it's okay. Huh. Now that I look up close at some of it, I can see why or how. I also love, you can tell this is done on a watercolor paper, but it's with Copic, and it gives it like just this extra layer of dimension. Anyway, really cool stuff. And they release these kinds of books all the time. I'm so envious. I would spend all my money on these. Try to learn all their secrets. And I know there's people who do this sort of stuff too on YouTube. And so many of them do it in such fast time lapse that I can't see what they're doing. And I am guilty of doing like a lot of time lapse stuff too, just because like people. No, a lot of my more recent videos are basically all time-lapse because there's just a limit to what people will sit through.
Yeah, but haven't you shown the process at some point in the past?
Yeah, usually.
Built up a back
I
catalog?
do also do a lot of voiceover time lapses where I try to explain what I'm doing. And like the point of this stream was also, yeah, a lot of these have come from trips to Japan or going to San Francisco or going to New York and buying from Kinokuniya or buying from Book Off. So yeah, I have some American art books that I got from the McKay's here in Nashville. It's definitely worth, if you have like a store like McKay's in your area, which is like a used bookstore, but it also sells like pulp science fiction and it also sells records, like one of those kind of more nerdy used bookstores. It can be worth going through because every now and then some weeaboo decides they're no longer going to be a weeaboo and they liquidate their entire book collection, or they just can't, they need the money, so they liquidate their book collection, or they decide they don't want to have all these things anymore. Oh, never mind.
It's supposed to be fantastic.
Book of Life? I haven't even looked at it yet because I'm a bad person.
You're not gonna?
Not tonight. I'm trying to wrap it up because it's 10:03 somehow. Hastings, I think, is another one of those. The Hastings here in Nashville is overpriced compared to McKay's. Oh, well, there, Joseph just said Hastings closed, so there you go. And if there's any one of these books that, because I'm going to write up all the names for you guys that you guys want to like go through more carefully and look at, I'm happy to do that. That was kind of the point of these, like, let's flip through art book streams, because I have all these really cool art books and I really like sharing them with people, but I'm not gonna pop it in the mail either, just because like I've had so many things go missing in the mail, things I've sent and things sent to me, that it's not worth the risk. But I'm happy to like try and get a better camera angle and show you guys. And then it gives me a reason to like spend more time with the books and look at them. Because there's, look at some of these techniques are so cool. It makes me feel like all I do is color by numbers. But that's kind of exciting too, because it's like, oh, there's so many ways my art can grow now. Yeah, my favorites are definitely the ones where they show like a beautiful piece of art and then they show what like the tools they're using and how to make it. Even if it's not entirely step by step, even if it's just like, here's 2 techniques. Like, even just, yeah. It just leaves you, it's like a small bite, like something you can accomplish. You're like, oh, I learned a thing. I'm gonna start doing that thing. It leaves you like all refreshed and pepped up for the next time you're gonna make art. And this person works like almost entirely in water brush, which I think is nuts in a good way. I'm just like, how? You're so good. Ugh. I'm terrible with water brushes. I have terrible control and you're so good. How dare you? I think they're painting larger than I normally work, so that could be part of it, is they're leaving themselves room to work. And then working with watercolor pencils and water brushes. I would take a book of art supplies and like clever techniques and clever tricks that are not commonly done. Oh, they even talk about like scanning ideas, like, but I can't read any of it. But I appreciate that they talk about it. So I am gonna add all of these to the list, or I'm gonna try to for you guys, add them all to the list of the books we looked at today in case any of you guys are looking for them yourself. It was a pleasure. Ow! Sorry, I got like one long nail and I got caught under a book. But it was a pleasure sharing them with you guys. I know some of them were repeats for some of y'all. Ah, it's not even picking it up. It looks like pure white. There's blue. Ooh, now it's pink. What is that about? This is what I'm going to be working on next. Oh, what? These? Have you not thought about it? I considered it. All right. So, what am I going to do? I get you. What is that website that had all the vintage design and art supplies? I had it in my browser forever, and there's a website. I'm gonna try to find it. Vintage art supply website. Hi, Bowie. What's up, my dude? More steaky das. Vintage design supply site. It was like a blog. It's gonna bug me now. It probably won't even let me put this in. That's not the one I'm talking about, though. Just hop up if you want to sit with me. Thank you. That's my boy. He's a whiner. This is it, I think. Yeah, this is it. This site's really cool. Everything's such a mess right now. I can't find what I'm looking for. Oh, I gotta draw an oboe. How dare me? So many buttons. I played clarinet. This is why I didn't want to draw for y'all today, because I spent 6 hours inking a page, and then I knew I still had to pencil another one, so I was trying to save myself. Is it showing up at all, Joseph? The itty of it, huh? Okay. Probably not the... Is lost. Yeah, that's not surprising. Yeah. How's that for y'all? The vintage art supply site has a lot of really cool stuff. I'm gonna draw the worst oboe, and all the oboe players in the audience are gonna come kill me. They're gonna be mad at me. This is the worst oboe. Weren't you even in band? I played clarinet. And then I left band for choir. Because I was not marching at football games. I referenced the hands from like earlier in this stage. So the hands are okay. It's the oboe that's a mistake and a half. That's okay. Oh my gosh. It's got so many buttons. It's like a clarinet from hell. And paddles. I know. I'm gonna like phone oboe it in.
It's crazy that somehow became standardized to me.
Oh, because it's so complicated?
Yeah, every oboe has stuff in
Yeah.
the same position. Like, I can imagine a piano becoming standardized. That's not that hard, but an oboe becoming standardized must have taken a long time.
What's
There
it?
was only one producer of oboes.
I don't think so. It's just been around a long time. I think what's more impressive to me is that people learn how to play this thing. I'm not trying to insult any oboe players in the audience, by the way. I have a lot of respect for you learning how to play this clarinet from hell. And clarinets are already like kind of a hell instrument in my opinion.
Those have reeds.
Yep,
What is the thing?
they are woodwinds.
Oh, that is like a really long reed sticking out of it? I've
Yup,
never-
and they're expensive because two of my really good friends in high school were both oboe players. Well, there's what you're told. How often, yeah, really. It's how often you're told to replace the reed versus how often your parents are willing to let you replace the reed. Plus, we had to drive. We lived in Luling, which is like 40 minutes out of New Orleans, and there was nowhere in Luling that you could buy any kind of musical instrument, anything. So you had to drive to New Orleans to go to Werlein's, which is out of business now. And there was also this other clarinet repair place that was sometimes open. It was like run by this old band teacher, so he kind of just was open when he wanted to be open, and he repaired clarinets. The Guitar Center didn't open till we were in college, and that's in Metairie. Well, I'm just from the Podunks. There's Spit Stick. Heidi played oboe, so next time you see them, you can ask Heidi how often they replace their Spit Stick. I mean, I remember people trying all kinds of things to try and get their reed to last a little bit longer, like soaking it in like mouthwash to try and kill mold, because it was Louisiana. Like, even if you removed, like, okay, I played clarinet, and I always removed my reeds because they were expensive, and even though my mom was willing to replace them for me, it was still an expense, you know? And even if I properly removed my reed and stored it in my reed case, sometimes they'd get moldy and funky and nasty. Is it possible to play around the mold? That's so gross. You want to put a moldy reed in your mouth? Wow. Wow. You do that. No, it's not. It's like environmental mold. Oh gosh, just shh. You're grossing me out, buddy. You're gross. You're nasty. Like, just thinking about it is not like, I'm just amazed that we put these things in our mouths as kids. I hated clarinet, not for like, well, I didn't like the clarinet anyway. I didn't think it sounded very good. But like, it wasn't really the clarinet's fault. It was more like I wanted to play flute, and my family had this really old clarinet that they'd had since my mom played clarinet in high school, and all her sisters played the exact same gross clarinet. So guess who played the clarinet that had been in the family for generations? What is a lever harp? I was like double done with clarinet when I realized that clarinets were replaced by violins in like any higher band, like an orchestra setting, and that if I wanted to continue playing clarinet, I could play jazz. And I hated jazz then, and I don't like jazz now. It's easier to play and less expensive than a violin.
It's hard to even make pleasant sounds with violins.
Until, oh no, I love violins, but I cannot play one. Yeah, it's longer to get good. No. I don't know. I'm more arguing that I don't know that I don't know. Like I said, I like clarinets better now, and I'd like to learn how to play it again. But I have a guitar that I need to learn how to play.
I don't know if you saw the harp, but it looks like a harp that you would imagine.
Oh, cool. Okay, like a big harp.
Yeah.
I mean, I played harmonica for a while, and those were called mouth harps. So I was like, is it like that kind of a harp? I wanted an instrument that takes a lot of dedication to get good at and a lot of practice. Something that's not instantly gratifying, and also something that when you start high school, if you used to play clarinet, they basically force you to either go to bass clarinet or to oboe. You don't get to stay on clarinet. So it's an instrument that implies change, but it also shows that she's like a dedicated person with a fair amount of self-discipline. Yeah. Also, she's a big old nerd. Wow, no. I don't talk about my characters publicly a lot because I assume nobody's interested, but I put a lot of thought into them. One of my high school friends, they pushed her into oboe, like as soon as she started 9th grade, and she was not a very good clarinetist, and she was a worse oboist, and I don't know that she ever got good with the oboe. And I'm so sorry if you're watching this stream in secret. I don't mean to offend you. You were a lovely person, but you were not very good at the oboe, and that's okay because I was garbage at drawing in high school. So, Anyway. She tried, like she practiced. I'd go sleep over at her house. She'd practice. She put the time in, like she was dedicated. She never got good at it. So that's another reason why I decided to have Naomi play the oboe is like thinking about this friend who'd put all this time in trying to get good at this instrument, and it just never happened for her. That was me with ballet. Like, I never improved. She stuck to oboe as well. They switched her to, like, our senior year, they switched her to bass clarinet because she just never got better. She was much better at bass clarinet. Oh my god. How long have you been sitting on that garbage pun obituary? How dare you? I kind of want to steal that and work it into Kara. It's so bad. That is a bad pun. It was sad. No, she didn't abandon it. She was forced to quit. Oh my gosh. I mean, I think it's important to like realize that like you can be dedicated to something and just never get good at it. And then you have to decide whether you want to keep, like, is it worth it for you to keep doing it? Do you love it enough that you would do it even if it never was beautiful to anyone else? I mean, for me with ballet, the answer was no. I was terrible at it, and it was in, like, I think ballet is beautiful and I love watching it, but like I can't remember choreography to save my life. And I was always dragging the rest of the group down. And like the girls were so sweet to me. They were always really nice and they'd help me practice, stuff like that. They could see I was trying and they could see that I just wasn't getting any better. So it sounds a little bit like tuning a guitar or a ukulele or any other of like the smaller stringed instruments. Yeah. 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 I can't believe you thought I had one of my characters play oboe because like a Naruto character or something. Like, come on! I mean, well, I care a lot about my characters. So the goal is to ink a page a day and pencil a page a day every day until it's done. And what I usually do is I start with inking the page when my hand's fresh, because I can't make any mistakes because I'm going to watercolor over it, so I can't correct them. And then in the day with penciling, because I can correct mistakes. I mean, if I'm going to do any kind of SPX prep, no. And I'm kind of disappointed by it, but it is what it is. I'm just slow compared to other people. mean, even if it was finished in time for SPX, like, you know, like, what good is that going to do me? Because, like, the book isn't going to be printed before SPX, you know? Like, I would have just had more finished originals in my portfolio. I don't mean that to sound defeatist either. I'm just trying to, like, sound realistic. So I'll probably take a break from it, or I'll definitely take a break from it while I'm out of town for SPX. And then I'm just going to try to keep doing it while I do my other classes. But that's going to be really difficult because I just, like, September has a lot going on. And then October also has a lot going on. Because I have Handmade and Bound and I have Hands-on Creativity also. But I'm just going to try to put time in every single day, even if it's not a lot of time. I mean, I guess what I could do, I don't want to do it like this, but I guess I could start watercoloring the pages as I'm finishing inking and penciling them. Yup. Yeah, I kind of want to do that so that I have, like, new material to do, like, test flats and stuff with. And these are going to be simple watercolor, like, not as detailed as Kara is, or my main pages are. So I'm kind of hoping it'll go faster. Yeah. Well, yeah, the original intention was for it to be just a quick little bonus comic. But, like, the more I thought about it, like, Naomi's an important character. She's the other main character. And so far, there are no chapters from her point of view. Other than through bonus chapters like this, I don't see that changing. So it's important to, like, give her a fair shot. And it also is useful for, like, kind of developing her personality and why she makes the decisions that she makes. So there may end up being another bonus chapter, not for this book, but for, like, the next book, that kind of delves into her relationship with her mom, because that's kind of like the unspoken elephant in the room. And I've been hinting at it a lot. Yeah, for sure. Have a good evening, Nancy. Since I was going to do this page before I went to bed anyway, I'm just going to do it on stream. Sleep well. Have a good weekend. As soon as I finish penciling this, I'm going to call it a night and get the rest of those books written up in the list and get all that fixed up, and then maybe go take a nice bath or eat some ice cream. Are you laughing at me? Why? Because I'm going to eat some ice cream? Why? Yeah, rice is an ice cream. If I was faster, we could walk to Jenny's. Yeah, it'll be closed. Oh. Do you want to walk to Jenny's? See, there you go. Jenny's is an ice cream place that makes, they make their own ice cream, and it's super good. And waffle cones, that's right. They make the waffle cones in the store right in front of you. So, like, as you walk in, it's like face full of delicious waffle cone. And then you're like, well, I wasn't going to get anything, but I guess I'll get a waffle cone. It is me literally quoting Joseph every time we go. I'll just have some of yours back. Like, I am eating every single bite of mine. I love you, but I do not share ice cream. Unless, actually, if I know you're eating some of mine, I order an extra scoop every time. I know. Get the work done. Get the work done. Also the part of the evening where I start singing really dumb songs to myself. This is actually a pretty easy page compared to that 9-panel page I inked earlier today. Because it's just one big. So like I need to be try to be strategic about what days I do what pages, because like some pages are very easy and I can knock them out very quickly, and then some pages are really dense. No, if I was just teaching making comics, I could definitely do pages while teaching that class. But I'm also teaching intermediate comics, and like some of what I'm doing I can bring to class and work on it. Although I don't like bringing like watercolors to class and working on a page there, because I did that a lot when I was at SCAD, and I feel like I was like always like cleaning up, like as soon as I'd get settled in and comfortable, it's like, oh, time to go. So I don't necessarily want to like bring a page other than to like show them how to stretch pages or whatever. Maybe I'll have like a standalone illustration to demonstrate with. I don't know. Never taught that class before. So it'll be a learning experience for me too. But it's like a lot of people from my other comic classes. So like I already know them, which is good. We already kind of have like a relationship. It's so much easier to teach a new class to people you already know than it is to teach a new class to like total strangers. Especially if they're comfortable enough to like tell you what they want to learn, because I can very easily tailor it for that. It also shows me like that they're interested and that they care, and that means a lot to me too. I'm impressed that there's 5 of you soldiers still in the chat. Although Joseph is 1 and I am 1. I'm impressed that there's 3 of you soldiers still in the chat. Actually, I'm glad I streamed tonight. Like, it was kind of a lower key stream, and that's okay. I enjoy the hanging out aspect of it. I don't always enjoy the like, let me come up with an interesting topic aspect of it, because sometimes I'm just like tapped out for the week. Yeah, I know, but then I gotta like prepare. It's a lot like teaching my classes. Hey, Bo, what you doing? You looking for a place to take a nap? Nappity nap. Don't go back. Good, you're keeping her warm. Tell her she's a good pup. Nice and clean now. She had a bath. Good pupperino. You posted pictures of your pups like a few, like 2 months ago maybe, and they were so cute. I still gotta pick up all those books too. So lately we've been rewatching Evangelion, which is technically, okay, I've watched it before, all the way through when I was 14, when Toonami first did the run. But this is like the first time I've watched it since. And I really disliked it the first time because, and I swear this happened, Toonami promoted it like it was a rom-com, like Tenchi Muyo, or like a rom-com version of Gundam or something. So I was expecting hijinks and a trip to the hot springs and just like general silliness, and that is not what happens. Is there a hot spring scene? Like every anime at that time had a hot spring scene, so there is a hot spring scene. Did they go to the beach? Okay, because that's the other thing every anime did at that time period. Okay. Alright, so I wasn't like entirely wrong. I'm enjoying it more now than I did then. And we're also rewatching Slayers. And this is actually my first time watching Slayers in Japanese, because I had the VHSs from Suncoast. And I don't know if anyone in here, besides Joseph and Kino Kitsune, are familiar with buying anime at Suncoast. But you bought it when it was on sale, and you bought whatever was on sale. And you didn't really look too, like, you might try to follow a series, but unless you wanted to spend $30 on a single VHS with 3 episodes, you bought whatever was on sale. So like, I've watched parts of Slayers and it was my favorite anime as a teenager, but like I've seen parts of Slayers Try, parts of Slayers Next, and parts of the original Slayers, but I've never seen it. Hi buddy. Hi buddy, do you want to be on camera? That's a rhetorical question. Let's see if I can do this without hurting a boy. He says, no. Does not likes. Because I was holding him. But he'll sit on my lap. You gonna talk? Of course not. So, this is also like my first time probably getting past episode 6 of any single version of Slayers. And then I watched the OVA, the one that's like all about her and Naga, on Real Media Player. So it was like this big on my screen, like super tiny. Isabel! Yes! I want to see Evie. He's your boy. And then Prime Reading, I guess, has they have certain manga for free. Like you can read it for free on Kindle. So I've been reading Beck, which is actually really good. A lot of like fan service, but you know, the intended market is teenage boys. And I don't mind fan service. I just like knowing it's coming up. Like, as we were flipping through the Clamp book, and we go from like very all ages friendly Cardcaptor to Sakura to like full nudity, and I'm just like, that's a thing. Let's keep flipping. Yeah, I just want a heads up. So the first time I heard that Twitter had a night mode, I thought that meant all the not safe for work accounts. Like a setting where you could view all the not safe for work accounts. Yeah, well, now I know what it is. It's so weird to me that wall scrolls are still a thing. They really wait. You don't believe me that it's weird to me, or you don't? No, they're definitely. Hey y'all, do people still buy wall scrolls? Are wall scrolls still available in the artist alley? I definitely I see people selling wall scrolls with like their art and fan art on it, and which like if it's no, I mean Dakimuras are not. They are no longer an object of shame. The love pillows.
Yeah, well, anime's also moved in that direction.
No, anime's always been kind of etchy. Not all, but like it's always been part of it. But like some of those pillows are just like designed, not all, but some are just designed to be like cute pillowcases and not like sometimes in the yeah. I mean, I haven't been to Hot Topic in about a year plus, but I definitely still saw them for sale at Hot Topic, okay? Cool ones. I think there was like an Attack on Titan one. Yeah, duh. I'm just surprised that it's still like a thing. It's only weird to me because like a scroll, like in terms of like decorative scrolls are supposed to be like objects of beauty. So it's like kind of funny to me, like this mass-produced anime image is so beautiful. Yes, I love art. I mean, you know, some of it is stuff that you are gonna remember. It's just like, it's like signboards. Like you can buy, like sometimes they're done as like a promo kind of item, right? Like you can buy like a copy of them, I guess, a print version of a signboard, right? You know the ones I'm talking about. Shikisi boards, I think is how it's pronounced, although Kino Kitsune will fuss at me for my bad, terrible pronunciation. Yeah, well, like the ones you see at Kinokuniya, they do them sometimes as like promos, as giveaways, and sometimes you can buy them. And it's just like, yeah, it's a mass-produced version of it, which is understandable when it's like, right. But they do. And it's got the gold bordering and everything on it. So it is what it is. How long have I been drawing? Okay, I'm going to give like the terrible cop-out answer that every artist gives, and then I'll give you an honest answer. So I've been drawing my entire life. Like every kid draws their entire life. You know, like, I like to draw people and birds and kitty cats and ponies, right? And then when I was 13, I I fell in love with comics and manga and anime, and that's what I decided I wanted to focus on, learning how to draw. And I did that, but I didn't really improve for a really long time because I wasn't in an environment where I could get feedback, and I was, yeah, back at the comic dark ages. So it wasn't until I was 22 that I started to actually improve at all. And thank you. And I am 33 now, so I've been drawing for a really, really long time. No, I guess I think I'm just like taken aback by like taking items that are supposed to be somewhat one of a kind or somewhat limited edition and then making them into mass produced objects.
Like people saying digital watercolors.
Well, I don't know if it's disingenuous. It's just like, I don't know. Because like nobody thinks that a wall like an anime character wall scroll is like a real wall scroll. Well, if you saw those signboards, most of them look like they're prints. It's like a Gickley print. Okay, so it doesn't look like, oh, that's awesome. I hope you continue growing and learning. 13 is a really good age to get like serious and pumped up about drawing. I don't have any, so I can't show you, but they definitely look like they were printed, you know? Okay, I mean, yeah. But I don't think anyone who is receiving one of those in Japan thinks, I'm not going to say the US because we don't have them as much, so like, you know, we're not used to it. But in Japan, I don't think they think they're getting the original. Now, sometimes the author will assign them individually, which I think kind of brings it back around to like, yeah, that's a legit thing. Well, some people don't even sign their Gickleys. I mean, some of them are like printed numbers. Oh, but I have like 20 years of drawing on you. By the time you're my age, you're going to be way better, I promise. Especially considering like YouTube is full of really great tutorials and demonstrations. Like, you have the entire world in front of you, Shahad. I'm not saying anything about fine art being a scam or not being a scam. I'm simply saying that if you're gonna buy art, buy it because you like what it looks like. And if you're gonna make art that you enjoy. Goodbye, Bo. Thank you for your company. Oh, no problem. I mean, I think some people, I wouldn't agree, but I'm also biased. I would think some people would say what I'm doing with the non-photo blue lines and refining it is cheating, even though I've drawn it every step of the way, and this is just a method of transferring it onto the paper that I want it on. Almost done, and I appreciate you guys coming out with me as long as you did. All the oboes out of my system. Yep. Yeah, sure. I can definitely do that. Thank you for the suggestion. Joseph, would you add that to my list? Eye drawing video. That might be a good topic for next week, actually, because it's something I'm... Yeah, it's a request. Ah, finished. Thank goodness. My hands is tired. No problem at all. I just have to tune in next week. All right, so that is it for me tonight. I want to thank you guys again. I think I've thanked y'all like 3 times, but I still want to thank you guys for hanging out with me this evening and keeping me company, looking at art books with me, and helping me get this penciled. It definitely did make it a lot easier. And for hearing me vent a little bit at the beginning of the stream when we were flipping through. Hi, Paco. Good evening. So I am going to call it a night. It is 11 o'clock here. I got books I got to put away. You guys can check the description for the names of all the art books that we looked at. And I will see you guys later. Thank you guys. Bye.